Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Capital G here. Got a new deck for you. This one for Karazov, Sengir, Pureblood. Going back in time here to Dominaria. We've done a bunch of Ikoria commanders already, so figured we'll throw it back to this little vampire here. Before we get into that, a whole bunch of changes between the last video and now. The companion rules being changed. Commander rules being changed to allow for death triggers to happen on our commanders even if we're sending them back to the command zone. And standard bannings. I've got my cap here because my hair has reached a state of uncombableness. And even with real life, water in the bathroom. So if you hear a fan running in the background, that's what it's about. So yeah. With all that said, let's dive into our commander and start talking about some of this stuff. Oh, and by the way, Core 2021, we got some early spoilers on that. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth here, but you might see a couple of cards from that set before long. Alright, so let's talk about Karazov first. He is our commander, a 4/4 flying vampire. Big mana coster, double black 5. However, the abilities are pretty cool. Whenever a creature an opponent controls is dealt damage, put a 1/1 counter on Karazov, Sengir Pureblood. That means that, say, if multiple creatures get damaged by the same source, well, there's a separate trigger for each creature. So that is a cool thing. We also have an activated ability here. 1 red, 3 generic, deal 2 damage to target creature. So I'm going to play around with that a little bit as well. But yes, we are looking at Rakdos colors. I was actually going to be doing a Temerate deck. That was the one I was building these past couple of days. Original Temerate. If anyone wants to go back to the original Theros set and look up that card, you'll see why I changed my mind. Let's just say there's some real timing issues on that one. Okay, so what does our deck actually look like? Well, we have a 7 mana commander, so we're going to have a lot of ramp rocks. So Arcane Signet is here, being able to reliably give us our colors. He can deal damage to creatures, so I would love to give him Death Touch. So Basilisk Collar is here. We don't want our creature to die, so Darksteel Plate. We want our commander to stay in play. Continuing on with Gilded Lotus, taps for 3 mana of any one color. Gorgon's Head, again for Death Touch. Hedron Archive, which taps for 2 mana. It can also be traded in for some cards. Iceground Scepter. We are actually running a bunch of 2 mana instants, so I threw in the stick. Lightning Greaves. Nice thing about our commander this time out is that we're not targeting him for anything. We're not trying to enchant him or what have you, so I don't mind giving him Shroud. Rakdos Locket, of course, also taps for our colors, or it can also be traded in for 2 cards later on. Rakdos Signet, Soul Ring, Swift Foot Boots for the Hexproof, Sword of Sinew and Steel. I'm playing black and red. Why do I need protection from black and red? Well, a lot of the targeted removal is black and red, so why not? Also, the +2/+2 boost is nice. Also, being able to have my creatures deal combat damage to a player, like when they do destroying artifacts and planeswalkers. It's a good trigger too, so why not? Sword of the Animist. Swing in, ramp up, get some lands into play. Talisman of Indulgence, another rock that can tap for our colors. Thrawn Dynamo comes out for 4, taps for 3 generic. The Wayfarer's Bauble, again, pulls a land out of our deck, puts it onto the battlefield for us. And 1 Power Stone. For creatures, the Clackbridge Troll, an 8/8 with Trample and Haste. We get to give one of our opponents 3/0/1 white goat creature tokens. How's that good? Well, it gives us some creatures that we can zap and put some +1/+1 counters onto our commander. It's also good because, hey, we go to combat, someone could choose to sacrifice their creature to prevent the Clackbridge Troll from attacking. Which is It seems counterproductive, but hey, we get to gain life and draw a card, and that's actually really important. Kumano, 5 mana 4/4, coming in from Kamigawa. Love that ability. So 1 red, 1 generic, deal 1 damage to target creature or player, and any creatures who were dealt damage by Kumano, if they would be put into the graveyard, they are exiled instead. So with the new commander rules, basically, as far as I understand it, if a commander were to die, it would actually hit the graveyard, and then as a state-based special action, you can move them to the command zone. So, but if you damage somebody's commander with Kumano, then they have to go to the exile zone instead of the graveyard. They'll still end up being able to return to the command zone. I encourage everyone to look up that new rule so that they have a better understanding of how it works. A Living Wall, a 0/6 defender for 4 mana. It's 1 mana to regenerate, and this is just to kind of hold off the early damage. We have a 7 mana commander that we want to bring out, so. Magus of the Arena. Repeatable removal, 6 mana 5/5. We pay 3 mana and tap it. Then we can choose a creature we control. An opponent chooses a creature they control. Those creatures get tapped and they fight. And yes, you can choose the Magus of the Arena. Magus of the Wheel. This lets us get our good cards back into our hand because, well, Rakdos doesn't draw cards very well. So we're going to use the Magus of the Wheel to top up on card draw. Needletooth Raptor. Whenever this is dealt damage, deals 5 damage to target creature an opponent controls. I don't know, so it might not seem super useful, except when you realize that I do have some cards with this effect. So let's look at Pestilence Demon. We're looking at 8 mana for a 7/6 flyer. But we're also looking at a creature that you pay black mana, you deal 1 damage to each creature and each player. So having that dinosaur that can throw a further 5 damage onto something, sure. And what's nice about Pestilence Demon is that, let's say our opponents have a total of 10 creatures out on the battlefield, and we have our commander in play. Each time we activate the Pestilence Demon, we would be damaging all of those creatures and putting a bunch of counters onto our commander. So, the longer those creatures survive, the more counters we can put on. Sevalclaft Rossons also takes advantage of this. Whenever this is dealt damage, each opponent sacrifices a permanent. And again, with Pestilence Demon, you can activate it 2, 3, 4 times. Like each time you put a mana into it, it's a separate activation, a separate instance of damage. So, that means a separate instance of players having to sacrifice their permanents. Stuffy Doll. If you need to really focus in on one player, Stuffy Doll can do that for us. We put it down, we name one of our opponents. The doll itself is indestructible, so blocks for us forever, and whenever it's dealt any sort of damage, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. It can also damage itself if we have to kind of accelerate the process a little bit. Trashing Wumpus, same as our Pestilence Demon. Pay a black, deal 1 damage to each creature and each player. Now imagine the Sword of Sinew on this guy. He's only got 3 toughness, so if you activate it 3 times in the same turn, normally dies. Throw the sword onto him, and well, he'll never die from that damage. He'll also be protected from his own color. Moving on to enchantments, Footfall Crater. We can do some fun stuff with this. Pay 1 mana to cycle it away. Or we can enchant one of our lands, and then all of a sudden we can use that land to give creatures trample and haste. Any creature trample and haste, so we can do some favors for our opponents in combat, or we can throw that on our commander and turn it sideways the same turn. Noxious Field also enchants one of our lands. It gives our land the ability to deal 1 damage to each creature and each player. Here's our OG, Pestilence. So with Pestilence, the enchantment, one thing we do have to be careful of course, is that if there are ever no creatures in play, we sacrifice Pestilence. oddly similar to flattening the curve in real life these days. But much like the Pestilence Demon, we can pay a black, deal 1 damage to each creature and each player, and each activation is separate. For Action Arena, we lose life, we draw cards. Pyrahemias, the red version of Pestilence, this was color shifted in the Time Spiral set. Not Time Spiral specifically, it would have been Planar Chaos, where we first saw this card. But it does the same thing except for red mana instead of black. In Theater of Horrors, because of the way we are dealing damage to other players, Theater of Horrors is a way for us to generate some card advantage. Yes, we exile cards from top of our library, and we have to damage an opponent to be able to play those cards, but not only can the Theater of Horrors do that by itself, it can also damage planeswalkers, so it gives us a little bit of removal in that regard. And, hey, with 1 activation of Pestilence, or Pestilence Demon, or Pyrahemia, we get to play our cards. Other cards we want to play going into our instance, Bedevil destroys an artifact, creature, or planeswalker. Love that flexibility. Boltbend, we want to protect our commander, so if somebody tries to hit it with targeted removal, well, we can send that in a different direction. Chaos Warp removes pretty much anything that we need to have removed. Yes, there's a chance that our opponent can get something good off the top of their library, but it's a risk we all gladly take in this format. Dark Ritual, quick shot of black mana. Lightning Bolt. A lot of people don't like it in this format, but it is a format that is getting faster. And being able to, say, shoot down somebody's Zulaport Cutthroat, or to zap Loris, keep that off the table for a bit. Or finish off Planeswalkers. Some Planeswalkers will downtick to like 3, 4, what have you, or someone will attack it that we only like 2, 3 loyalty counters left on that Planeswalker. Well, Lightning Bolt can zap it. Rakdos Charm. Exile all cards from our player's graveyard, so a little bit of graveyard control, or we can destroy an artifact. Or if somebody's got a bunch of tokens, we can have those tokens basically turn on their creator. Starstorm. Nice little instant speed board wipe. So red, X, deal X damage to each creature, add instant speed. We could cycle it away for 3 mana, but generally speaking, I've never cycled this card. So hopefully, I mean, if you're cycling away this card, that means you really don't need it, and that you are in a winning position. Temur Battle Rage. This will help our commander get through. So let's say our commander gets swole, but we can't quite get past our opponent's defending flyers. That's what the Temur Battle Rage is for. Not only does it grant would it grant our commander double strike, but because his power is already at the power of 4, we can give him trample as well. So double strike and trample for 2 mana, and especially if we manage to toss it onto a Isochron Scepter. Fun times. Terminate, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. So yep, that's good stuff there. Especially on the stick. Thrill of Possibility. Discard a card, draw 2 cards. I'd have to double check. I think even if you throw the Thrill of Possibility onto the Isochron Scepter, it says you can cast the spell without paying its mana cost. I think you still have to discard the card. But it's still a way to turn to the deck and draw some extra cards. Unexpected Fangs coming in from Ikoria, coming in from the junk pile. Put a 1/1 counter and a lifelink counter on target creature. So imagine this guy on our commander when we swing, or imagine it on Trashing Wumpus when we start activating its Pestilence ability. Unlikely Aid, nice little instant speed way of protecting our key creatures. 2 mana, target creature gets +2/0 and indestructible until end of turn. Mana base, obviously saw a lot of standard Rakdos stuff, including Blood Crypt. We've got Bojuka Bog to exile a graveyard. The Bonder's Enclave, a nice way to draw cards off of a land. Cabal Coffers is here, that means Urborg is also here. Castle Loch Twain. Again, a land that can draw some cards. Yes, we might lose some life from it, but totally worth it. Command Tower for reliable colors. Running Desert of the Glorified. So, of course, it cycles or comes in tapped, and we can use it for our colors. Forbidden Orchid. Running this here because not only does it reliably give us our colors, but also reliably gives us gives our opponents a creature that we can damage and make our commander bigger. Mountains, running 10 of those. 1 Rakdos Carnarium. Ramanap Ruins. A bit of a payoff for our deserts, so we can sack our deserts, deal 2 damage to each opponent. So just a little back pocket tool just in case we're a little bit short on damage. Or even Scavenger Ground. Sacrifice the desert, exile all cards from all graveyards. Smoldering Marsh. Taps for our colors as a swamp and a mountain. 12 swamps, 1 Tainted Peak, which can tap for both of our colors as long as we control the swamp. Temple of Malice for the Scry. Temple of the False God, because 7 mana commander. We're likely going to have enough lands to have this active. And there's our Urborg. A few Planeswalkers. Let's start with Chandra Awakened Inferno. This is a good way to take down our opponent's life total. Use the +2, give all our opponents emblems where they take a damage at the beginning of each of our upkeeps. Also, the -3 is a really good synergy too, dealing 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. So again, 10 creatures on the board, deal 3 damage to all of them, perhaps kill some of them, and make your commander swole. We can also -X, deal X damage to target creature or planeswalker, and creatures damaged that way would be exiled. So again, all 3 modes very useful on Chandra Awakened Inferno. Chandra Fire Artisan, she is here to help us with our card draw. So anytime loyalty counter is removed from her, say somebody attacks her, what have you, she deals that much damage to an opponent or planeswalker. +1 to exile a card from our library that we may play this turn, or -7 to exile 7 cards from our library that we may play this turn. Chandra Torch of Defiance, getting a reprint in the spellbook. So, great ad. We've already got the new card art here loaded onto Cockatrice, so that's pretty cool. So 4 loyalty Planeswalker, again, exile the top card of our library, and we can choose to either play it or deal 2 damage to each opponent. We can also ramp, like add 1 loyalty for the double red. We can deal 4 damage to target creature. Or if we somehow manage to build up to 7 loyalty, the emblem is really cool too. And Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord. This is a sweet card for this deck. Target creature you control gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn, and if it's a vampire, we put a 1/1 counter on it. So we can use this to give our commander Death Touch, so pay the 4 mana, kill a creature. We can use this on, say, Trashing Wumpus, and all of a sudden 1 black, wipe the board. The other +1 we have, we may sacrifice a vampire, and if we do, deal 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. I'm not going to be using that ability really. The -3, however, you may put a vampire creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Somebody drops down a Cyclonic Rift, well, you cast Sorin, you -3, your commander's back on the field. And a few sorceries here. Ambition's Cost, draw 3 cards, yes, we lose 3 life, totally worth that cost. Ancient Craving, same deal. Blasphemous Act, deal 13 damage to each creature. Now, if you manage to get Karazov to 14 power or better, then 1 red not only wipes the board of everybody else, but our commander just gets more swole. Chandra's Ignition, again, our commander, build up our commander, cast Chandra's Ignition, very much a game ender. Cosmotronic Wave, deal 1 damage to each creature our opponents control, again, helping to boost up Karazov's power. And creatures your opponents control can't block this turn. Running Demonic Tutor, search our library for a card, put it in our hand. Faithless Looting, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. And of course the flashback, so we can churn through the deck and find the things that we need. Fiery Confluence, all 3 modes super useful, dealing damage to each creature, which our commander wants, dealing damage to our opponents, which is never a bad thing, and destroying artifacts. And we can choose each of those 3 modes up to 3 times each. So choose 3, you can choose the same mode more than once. So you can deal 3 damage to each creature, or you can deal 2 damage to each creature and destroy an artifact, so on and so forth. Awesome flexibility. Grim Tutor. this is getting a reprint in Core 2021, so I decided to include it here. I've never seen this card cast. I don't think a lot of people have the original card because it was coming from starter. So you don't see this card very, very often at all at Commander tables, but Core 2021 will change that. Even though the card is printed at Mythic, depending on how much of it gets open, there'll be tons of these floating around. Reforge the Soul. Each player discards their hand, draws 7 cards. So again, just a way to refill our hands later in the game. And Siphon Mine. Each other player discards a card. We draw a card for each card discarded this way. So nice little card advantage piece here for us. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Karazov Sengir Pureblood. Got to play this last night for the first time, and you do get targeted with a lot of removal, so you definitely want to be able to defend yourself as much as possible. So perhaps even more extra defensive cards such as Swerve or Wild Ricochet might be cards to consider if you want to build this deck. I've seen other builds play with Torbrand, so there's lots of cool cards recommended on EDH Rec. Give it a try. But this is what I ended up settling on, and I had a lot of fun with this deck. So hopefully you build it too. You have a lot of fun with it too. And if you'll pardon me, it's time for me to get a haircut. Capital G signing off, and we'll see you next time.